The morning sun climbed higher as Amy and Kara made their way across the vast desert landscape. Amy had a rough map of the territory in her tactical device. They needed to head northeast to reach the human forward operating base. But that meant crossing a region known for Crescent patrols. Kara moved with surprising grace despite her injuries. Her tall form navigating the rocky terrain with ease, Amy had to occasionally jog to keep up with the alien warrior's long strides. "We should reach that ridge by midday," Kara said, pointing to a distant rock formation. "I know my people will have search parties looking for me. My commander will not allow a traitor to escape alive." Amy nodded grimly. "Understanding the stakes, I need to find a way to contact my base before we show up at the perimeter. Otherwise, they might shoot first and ask questions later." They traveled in silence for a while, conserving energy in the growing heat. Amy noticed how Kara would occasionally tilt her head, listening. For sounds beyond human hearing, the alien was proving to be a valuable ally already. Around mid-morning, Kara suddenly froze. Raising her hand in a universal stop gesture, Amy immediately dropped to a crouch, her hand on her weapon. "Patrol coming, Kara," whispered two ground vehicles approaching from the west. They scrambled behind a large boulder just as the distinctive whine of Crescent hover vehicles became audible. Amy peered carefully around the rock, seeing the dust cloud in the distance. Kara accessed her wrist device, her long fingers moving across the interface with practiced ease. "I can tap into their communication frequency." Amai's eyes widened. "That's handy." The alien gave her that toothy, not quite smile again. "Advantages of being an officer. They will not expect me to be listening." Static hissed from Kara's device, followed by rapid clicks and sounds that made no sense to Amy. But Kara listened intently, her expression growing more serious. "They have deployed hunter drones," Kara explained. "These are small aerial devices designed to detect heat signatures and movement. We must remain still until they pass." The minutes stretched as they pressed against the rock. Amy could feel her heart pounding as the hover vehicles drew closer. The whirring of drone wings now audible overhead. A bead of sweat trickled down her face, but she dared not wipe it away. Kara remained perfectly still, her amber eyes tracking something Amy could not see above them. The alien's breathing had slowed to an almost imperceptible rhythm. After what seemed like an eternity, the sounds began to fade. Kara waited several more minutes before speaking softly. "They are moving southwest. They believe I am heading for the canyons." Amy let out a breath. She hadn't realized she was holding how long before they realized their mistake. Kara considered this. "They will expand the search pattern in approximately 4 hours. We should use this time to cover as much ground as possible." They continued their journey, keeping to rocky areas where they would leave fewer tracks. Kara taught Amy how to walk on hard surfaces to minimize footprints, a standard technique for Crescent scouts. By midday, they had reached the ridge, the elevation giving them a better view of the surrounding territory. Amy checked her communications device again. "I might be able to get a signal from here," she said. Climbing to the highest point, the static cleared slightly as she adjusted the frequency. "This is private. Amy Wells, 42nd Reconnaissance. Unit requesting emergency extraction over." Only broken responses came through, but it was something Amy repeated her message several times, adding coordinates and situation details. A voice finally broke through. "Wells, where the hell have you been? Your squad reported you missing. Presumed dead." Amy felt a surge of relief at the familiar voice of Lieutenant Kelly Benson. "This is Wells. I'm alive, and I have sensitive intel requesting special extraction protocol." Amber, there was a pause on the other end. "Amber Protocol, are you sure? Wells, yes, Mom, Amber Protocol, and please patch me through to Commander Morris." "It's urgent." Another pause followed by, "I can't reach Morris right now, but I'll get your extraction set up. Rendezvous point Delta in 6 hours. Can you make it?" Amy looked at Kara, who nodded affirmative. "I can make it, and Lieutenant, I'm not alone. I'll explain when I see you." "Copy that, Wells Benson." Amy climbed down from her perch to find Kara looking tense. "What is wrong?" The alien gestured to the eastern horizon. "Dust storm coming. We need to find shelter or it will slow us considerably." I checked her map. There was a series of caves about 2 miles ahead. "If we hurry, we can reach those caves before it hits." They increased their pace, the dark wall of the storm growing visible to even Amy's eyes, the wind picking up and carrying the first grains of sand as they neared the caves. Kara suddenly pulled Amy behind a rock formation, her voice urgent. Humans ahead. Amy carefully peered around the rock, seeing 3 figures in military uniforms outside the cave entrance. Not her unit. Based on the insignia, they were from the 31st Infantry, a unit known for their aggressive tactics and hatred of Crescians. We can't go that way, Amy whispered. And we can't stay in the open with that storm coming. Kara scanned the area. There is another option. She pointed to a narrow ravine to their right. It will provide some protection, though, not as much as the caves. They changed course, keeping low, and using the terrain for cover. The wind was howling now, carrying stinging particles of sand that made it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. The ravine was better than nothing. Amy pulled a protective mask from her pack, offering it to Kara. You need this more than I do. Your eyes are more sensitive. Kara seemed surprised by the gesture but accepted the mask. Amy pulled her uniform collar up over her nose and mouth as they pressed on into the ravine just as the full force of the storm hit the world became a howling brown blur, visibility reduced to almost nothing. Amy felt Kara's strong hand grip her arm, keeping them together in the maelstrom. They huddled in the deepest part of the ravine, backs against the rock wall. Time lost. All meaning in the storm. Amy could only hope it would pass quickly enough for them to make the rendezvous point. Delta was still several hours' march away. Gradually, the wind began to die down the air, clearing slowly. Kara removed the mask, her amber eyes blinking against the residual dust. We lost approximately 1 hour. Kara said, checking her wrist device, but the storm has an advantage. I brushed sand from her uniform. What advantage? It will have covered our tracks completely, Kara explained, and limited visibility for search parties. They resumed their journey. The landscape transformed by the storm dunes shifted, and familiar landmarks partially buried. They had to rely more heavily on Kara's wrist device for navigation. As they walked, Amy found herself curious about her alien companion. What made you join the military? Kara, the question seemed to surprise the Crescian. In my culture, there is no joining. It is determined at hatching. My egg showed characteristics of a warrior caste. I was raised accordingly. No choice at all. Amy asked. Kara tilted her head, considering choice is a very human concept for Crescians. It is about fulfilling one's designated purpose with excellence. I thought about this for a moment. So what happens? To those who don't fit their designation, they are reconditioned. Kara said simply, her tone suggesting this was not a pleasant process. They walked in silence for a while. Amy processing this glimpse into Crescian society. It made Kara's defection even more significant. The alien wasn't just turning against her commander, but against her entire way of life. The sun was beginning its descent when they spotted the first signs of human activity in the distance. A patrol moving along the perimeter of what must be their territory. I checked the time. We still have 2 hours before the rendezvous. We should wait until dark. They found a depression in the ground surrounded by rocks that offered decent concealment. Amy shared the last of her rations with Kara as they waited. Kara seemed increasingly tense as the minutes ticked by, her eyes constantly scanning the horizon. What troubles you? Amy asked. The Crescian hesitated before answering. I am contemplating what awaits me among your people. I have studied humans enough to know that trust does not come easily, especially for an enemy. Amy nodded, understanding the concern. Commander Morris is fair. But yes, there will be suspicion. You'll probably face interrogation, isolation. Maybe worse. Kara met Amy's eyes, unflinching. I expect no less. I would do the same with a human defector, but I hope to prove my value quickly enough. What made you decide to defect now? Amy asked. Why not earlier or later? Kara was quiet for a long moment before answering. I have had doubts for some time. The tactics of our empire have grown increasingly dishonorable. Targeting civilian populations serves no strategic purpose. It is merely cruelty. My commander spoke of breaking human spirit, but I have observed you're kind enough to know this will only strengthen your resistance. She looked directly at Amy. A cultural exchange program was attempted briefly before the war. I was among the Crescians who studied humans. I learned your languages, your customs. I came to respect your species' adaptability and determination. The order to massacre civilians was the breaking point. But the seeds were planted long ago. Amy was surprised she'd never heard of this exchange program. It must have been classified or perhaps deliberately erased from public knowledge after the war began. You understand us better than most Cretans then. Amy said. Kara nodded. Which is why I know defecting is dangerous but necessary, if there is to be any hope for peace. Darkness, fell-bringing, cooler temperatures, and the sounds of nocturnal desert creatures. Amy checked her weapons and equipment. One last time. It's time, she said. We need to approach carefully. Stay behind me and follow my lead. A human soldier rescues a warrior alien woman and she makes an unexpected request. The scorching desert sun beat down on Private Amy Wells. As she trudged through the barren landscape, her patrol had been separated during the ambush. And now she found herself alone in this alien territory. The war with the Cretan Empire had been going on for 3 years now, and humanity was barely holding its ground. Amy wiped sweat from her brow and checked her water supply. It was dangerously low. She needed to find shelter before nightfall when the temperature would drop to freezing. She adjusted her rifle strap and continued forward, keeping her eyes alert for any movement. This mission was supposed to be routine reconnaissance, but intel had clearly been wrong. The Cretan forces were not retreating from this sector as reported. Instead, they had set up an ambush in the narrow canyon, catching Amy's squad completely by surprise. The firefight had been intense and chaotic. Amy had no idea if any of her teammates had survived. Her combat boots crunched on the rocky terrain as memories of the ambush replayed in her mind. The explosion that knocked her off her feet. The shouting, the sergeant yelling for everyone to fall back. Then, the rock slide. That cut her off from the others, forcing her to find an alternate route. Amy checked her communication device again. Nothing but static. The canyon walls were interfering with the signal she would need to reach higher ground to contact base. The thought of being alone in enemy territory sent a chill down her spine. Despite the heat, a faint sound caught her attention. Something between a growl and a whimper coming from behind a cluster of rocks. Carefully, Amy approached, weapon ready. It could be a trap. Cretans were known for their cunning. What she found instead made her pause. A female Cretan warrior lay wounded, her purple-scaled skin caked with dried blood. The alien was tall, nearly 7 feet, with a muscular build and distinctive ridge patterns along her arms. Her battle armor was damaged, revealing severe injuries to her side. Cretans were feared for their strength and combat prowess. This one appeared to be an officer based on her elaborate armor markings under normal circumstances. Amy should report her position and call for backup, or even eliminate the enemy. But something about the way the alien looked at her gave Amy pause. There was intelligence in those amber eyes and something else: desperation. The Cretan spoke, her translator, converting the clicks and hisses into English. My unit was betrayed by our commander. I refused to massacre human civilians. Amy kept her rifle aimed at the alien. Why should I believe you? The alien female gestured weakly to a data device on her wrist. Proof transmission orders. I was to be executed for disobedience. Cautiously, Amy approached and examined the device. The information seemed legitimate: orders for civilian executions and subsequent reports of the Cretan's refusal, followed by her commander's order to eliminate her for treason. Amy made a decision that would change everything. She lowered her weapon and reached for her medkit. I can help with those wounds. The Cretan looked surprised. You would aid an enemy? Amy shrugged. Not all. Enemies stay that way, and I don't believe in leaving anyone to die like this. As she applied emergency medical gel to the alien's wounds, Amy introduced herself. The Cretan responded. My designation is Kara, 3rd Battalion Hunter Division. Kara explained how her squad had been ordered to attack a human settlement with no military presence, just families and workers. She had refused, and her own commander had attacked her, leaving her for dead. I questioned the honor in killing those who cannot defend themselves, Kara said, wincing as Amy cleaned a particularly deep wound. My commander said I was contaminated by human ideals of mercy. She saw my hesitation as weakness on my carefully bandaged Kara's midsection. The alien biology was different, but similar enough that the medical supplies seemed effective. The bleeding had stopped and Kara was breathing more steadily. Was this your first time seeing human civilians? Kara, Amy asked. No, Kara admitted. I have observed your settlements from afar, on previous missions, but they were always military targets. This order felt wrong, even by our standards of warfare. Amy nodded, understanding. There were rumors that some Cretans disagreed with their empire's aggressive tactics, but this was the first Confirmation she'd encountered, night began to fall rapidly as it often did in the desert. The temperature was already dropping. Amy helped Kara to her feet. We need to find better shelter. Together they made their way to a small cave Amy had spotted. Earlier it was shallow enough to be safe from predators but deep enough to provide protection from the elements. Amy helped Kara sit against the cave wall, then gathered what little dry vegetation she could find for a small fire. The flickering flames cast long shadows across the cave walls as Amy shared her rations with Kara. The Cratian examined the human food with curiosity before cautiously tasting it. "Your food lacks proper seasoning," Kara commented, "but it is not unpleasant." Amy laughed. Despite their situation, "What does Cratian food taste like, spiced with minerals? Your kind would find toxic." Kara explained, "Our homeworld has a different chemical composition than Earth. We evolved to process elements you cannot." They fell into conversation. Exchanging information about their worlds and cultures, Amy learned that Cratian society was highly structured with rigid hierarchies and little room for individual choice. "Your concept of personal freedom is alien to us," Kara said thoughtfully. "Cratians are born into their purpose from hatching to serve the Empire as our highest calling." Amy considered this sounds limiting. Kara tilted her head to one side perhaps, but it provides certainty and order. "Your human societies seem chaotic by comparison." The night deepened around them. Amy took first watch while Kara rested. Her wounds needed time to heal, and they both needed strength for tomorrow when they would need to navigate through dangerous territory. As Amy sat at the mouth of the cave looking up at unfamiliar stars, she wondered about the strange turn of events that had led her to this moment. She had joined the military to protect Earth, not to rescue enemy soldiers. Yet here she was. Kara stirred in her sleep, murmuring something in her native language. Amy watched the alien warrior and realized that despite their differences, they shared something fundamental. A sense of right and wrong that transcended species. When it was Kara's turn to keep watch, Amy lay down, on the hard ground trying to find a comfortable position. Sleep came surprisingly easily, perhaps due to exhaustion. She dreamed of purple skies and strange cities of beings with scaled skin and amber eyes who looked at her not with hostility but with curiosity and respect. Amy woke to the first light of dawn filtering into the cave. Kara was still at her post, alert and vigilant. The alien turned to Amy, her expression unreadable by human standards. "Your people will be searching for you," Kara said, "and mine will be hunting." Mimi nodded, sitting up and stretching her sore muscles. "We need a plan." Kara hesitated for a moment, then spoke. "I have a request. It is unexpected, but I have observed enough of humans to believe you might consider eye to me," raised an eyebrow. "What kind of request?" "I wish to defect to your military," the Cratian said. "I can no longer serve an empire that would target innocent lives. I have tactical information about Cratian deployments and weaknesses." Amy was stunned. Defection was rare among Cratians. Their society viewed it as the ultimate dishonor, worse than death. "Are you sure about this? There would be no going back." Kara sat up straighter despite her injuries. "I am certain your people value choice. I choose to fight for a cause that aligns with my own principles rather than blind obedience." I considered the implications. A Cratian officer defecting would be an intelligence goldmine, but getting Kara safely to the human base would be challenging. "I can't guarantee how you'll be received, Kara," Amy said honestly. "There is a lot of hatred for Cratians among my people." Kara nodded. "I understand the risks. I have seen the devastation my people have caused. I wish to help end this conflict, not perpetuate it." Amy made her decision. "Then we better get moving. I know someone at base who might help us." Commander Patricia Morris. "She works in intelligence and she's fair-minded." Dawn broke over the desert as they prepared to leave. Kara stood testing her healing wounds, her tall frame making Amy look small in comparison. "The human will not regret this decision," Kara said. "I will prove my value." Amy nodded. "We'll need to cross 60 miles of contested territory with limited supplies against forces from both sides." Looking, Kara displayed her sharp teeth in what Amy realized was a smile. "I enjoy challenges, human Amy, and I suspect you do too." Amy checked her weapons and grinned back. "This is either the beginning of something amazing or the stupidest thing I've ever done, probably both." They set out across the desert, an unlikely pair, human and Cratian former enemies. now allies with a dangerous journey ahead, and the potential to change the course of the war. The transport vehicle rumbled across the rough terrain heading toward the human base. Amy sat beside Kara, aware of the suspicious glances from Lieutenant Benson and the two soldiers accompanying them. No one spoke during the journey. The tension, so thick it could be cut with a knife, Kara remained composed, her posture straight and dignified despite being a prisoner in all but name. Amy admired the aliens, calm in the face of such hostility. The base came into view, a collection of prefabricated structures surrounded by defensive walls and watchtowers. Searchlights swept the perimeter, illuminating the barren landscape around it. As they approached the main gate, Lieutenant Benson spoke into her communication device. "This is Benson returning. With Wells and package Amber, protocol clearance requested." There was a pause before the gate slowly opened, allowing their vehicle to enter. Amy noticed how the guards stared at Kara, their hands tightening on their weapons. The vehicle stopped outside the main command building. Lieutenant Benson turned to them. "Commander Morris is waiting inside. Wells, you go first. The Crescian follows 10 paces behind. Weapons will remain trained on her at all times." Amy nodded, understanding the precautions. This was standard procedure for high-risk situations. She stepped out of the vehicle and waited for Karath. Alien warrior emerged, her tall form, drawing gasps and whispers from nearby personnel. Amy caught fragments of conversation. "Is that a creche? What the hell is it doing here? Should be shot on sight." Amy ignored them and began walking toward the building. Kara following at the prescribed distance. They entered a stark hallway leading to a series of rooms at the far end. Lieutenant Benson directed them to a secure conference room. Commander Patricia Morris waited inside, a woman in her 50s, with short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She dismissed the guards, ordering them to wait outside. Only Benson remained standing by the door. "Wells," Morris said, her voice neutral. "Report." Amy saluted and began explaining everything from the ambush to finding Kara wounded, to learning of her desire to defect. She detailed their journey across the desert and Kara's assistance in avoiding enemy patrols. Morris listened without interruption, her gaze occasionally shifting to Kara, who stood silently observing the exchange. When Amy finished, Morris finally addressed the Crescian. "You claim to have valuable intelligence, Kara, 3rd Battalion, Hunter Divisione du Commander," Kara responded, her translator converting her words. Morris leaned forward. "Prove it. Give me something actionable, something we don't already know." Without hesitation, Kara accessed her wrist device and projected a holographic map onto the table. "The Crescian Empire is planning a major offensive in 3 weeks' time. The primary target is your Western defense network, specifically these 6 installations." She highlighted points on the map. "They will deploy new class resonance weapons capable of disrupting your shield technology. The weapons were recently developed, and this will be their first field deployment." Morris studied the map, her expression unchanged. "How do I know this isn't misinformation?" Kara met her gaze. "I can provide technical specifications of the weapons, their deployment protocols, and the command codes necessary to track their activation sequence. Verification is possible through your own intelligence networks." The commander was silent for a long moment. "Considering I need to verify this," she finally said, "Wells, Kara will be held in secure quarters while we assess this information. Lieutenant, escort our guest to holding room 3, maximum security protocols." Kara nodded, accepting the decision. Amy started to protest, but a look from Morris silenced her. As Kara was led away, Morris turned to Amy. "I understand your concern, Wells, but procedure exists for a reason. If her information checks out, well, proceed accordingly." I stood her ground respectfully. "Mom, Kara's taking an enormous risk by coming here. She could have valuable insight beyond tactical data." Morris raised an eyebrow. "Are you suggesting special treatment for an enemy combatant?" "No, Mom," Amy replied. "Just fair treatment. She saved my life and chose to defect at great personal cost." Morris studied Amy carefully. "I understand, Wells. Your concern is noted now. Go get cleaned up and report to medical for evaluation debrief in 6 hours." I had no choice but to comply. She made her way to her quarters, exhaustion finally catching up with her after a quick shower and medical check. She collapsed onto her bunk, sleep claiming her almost instantly. 6 hours later, Amy reported to the command center as ordered. Morris was there, along with Several intelligence officers, their faces serious. We verified some of the information Kara provided. Morris said it's accurate. Our deep cover assets confirm the offensive planning, though not all details matched. Is that good news? Amy asked. It's complicated. Morris admitted the Cretan appears to be telling the truth about the offensive. But there's more to this situation than she revealed. The Intelligence Committee wants a full interrogation. Amy's heart sank. Interrogation was often a euphemism for harsh methods, especially with enemy combatants, ma'am. May I speak freely? Morris nodded. Kara isn't just any defector. Amy said she has cultural knowledge of humans from a pre-war exchange program. She mentioned she understands us better than most Cretans. That kind of insight could be invaluable. Morris looked surprised. We have no record of such a program. It may have been classified or erased from records after the war began, Amy suggested. But it explains her willingness to defect and her familiarity with our customs. Morris considered this for a moment. Very well. Wells, you may observe the interrogation. Perhaps your presence will encourage cooperation. The holding room where Kara was being kept was sparse, containing only a table and chairs. The Cretan sat calmly, despite having been confined for hours. She looked up when Amy and Morris entered. Commander Kara acknowledged. Has my information proven useful? Morris took a seat across from her. Partially. We need more details and explanations. Kara nodded, understanding your caution is reasonable. For the next several hours, Morris questioned Kara about Cretan military strategies, weapon capabilities, troop deployments, and command structures. Kara answered each question directly, providing detailed information that Amy could see impressed even the skeptical commander. Eventually, Morris shifted focus. Tell me about this cultural exchange program you mentioned to Private Wells. Kara seemed momentarily surprised that Amy had shared this information. It was initiated 3 years before the war began. A diplomatic effort to foster understanding between our species. 12 Cretans, including myself, were selected to study human culture, language, and social structures in return. 12 humans visited our homeworld. And what happened to these humans when the war started? Morris asked, her voice sharp. They were safely returned, Kara said during the final diplomatic negotiations before hostilities began. It was one of the few honorable actions taken by our leadership, and I noticed how Morris studied Kara as if trying to detect any deception. Why was there no public record of this exchange? Kara, it was considered a military intelligence operation on both sides. Kara explained, not a public diplomatic initiative. The knowledge gained was to inform future engagement strategies. Morris leaned forward. What did you learn from this exchange? Kara was quiet for a moment before responding. I learned that despite our biological and cultural differences, humans and Cretans share fundamental values: honor, loyalty, protection of one's community. The differences lie in how these values are expressed and prioritized. I also learned that humans possess remarkable adaptability and resilience qualities. My people have historically underestimated. This war has proven the error in that assessment. Morris stood up. We need to continue this discussion. But first, I want to review the new information with my team. Wells, a moment outside, Amy followed Morris into the hallway. Her information is consistent with our intelligence, Morris said quietly, and more detailed than what we've gathered through conventional means. You believe her? Amy asked hopefully. I'm inclined to. But there's a complication. Morris explained headquarters has gotten wind of our Cretan visitor. General Simmons is on her way to take over the interrogation. Amy's stomach dropped. General Olivia Simmons was known for her ruthless approach to the war after losing her family. In the early Cretan attacks, she had little sympathy for the enemy. Regardless of circumstances, Mom Kara came to us voluntarily, Amy protested. Simmons' methods might. Morris held up her hand. I understand your concerns, Wells, but this is beyond my authority now. What I can do is make sure you're present during further questioning. Your rapport with the Cretan could be useful. I nodded, grateful for even this small concession. When will the general arrive? Tomorrow morning? Morris said. Until then, he'll continue the interview process. My way, go get some rest, Wells, you've earned it. Instead of returning to her quarters, Amy went to the mess hall. Needing time to think, she found it nearly empty at this late hour, except for a few off-duty personnel, who stared at her with curiosity. News of her return with a Cretan defector had clearly spread. She sat alone with a tray of food, picking at it without much appetite. Her mind racing with concern for Kara. The alien had risked everything to defect, and now faced General Simmons, known for her hatred of all Cretians. "Excuse me." A voice interrupted her thoughts. Amy looked up to see Specialist Linda Carter, the base's communications expert. "Mind if I join you?" Amy gestured to the empty seat across. From her, Carter sat down, leaning forward to speak quietly. "Is it true you brought in a creche?" Amy nodded. "It's classified, though." Amy woke early the next morning after a restless night. Her dreams filled with images of desert storms and amber eyes. She knew General Simmons would arrive soon, and with her a new level of danger for Karash. Dressed quickly and headed to the command center, hoping to speak with Commander Morris before the general arrived. She found Morris reviewing reports. "A cup of coffee in her hand, Mom," Amy said after being acknowledged. "May I speak with you about the Cretian defector?" Morris gestured. "To a chair, sit, Wells. I expected you'd come by." Amy sat her back straight. "I understand General Simmons will be taking over Kara's questioning, but I wanted to emphasize the importance of maintaining rapport with her. Kara's cooperation so far suggests that." Morris interrupted. "I agree, Wells, which is why I've requested you be present during all sessions with General Simmons. I've cited your unique connection to the defector as critical to the intelligence gathering process." Amy felt a rush of relief. "Thank you, ma'am. Don't thank me yet." Morris warned. "Simmons has final authority here. All I can do is advise." She took a sip of her coffee. "I've known Olivia for 20 years. She's a brilliant tactician, but the Cretian attacks changed her. She sees this, war in black and white with no room for nuance." "What should I expect?" Amy asked. Morris' expression grew serious. "Stay professional, focus on the intelligence value, don't show emotional investment in the Cretians. Welfare. Simmons respects results, not sentiment." A communication officer interrupted Commander General Simmons. "Transport has arrived." Morris stood straightening her uniform. "Here we go, Wells. Remember what I said." General Olivia Simmons was a tall, imposing woman in her 60s with steel, gray hair pulled back in a severe bun. Her uniform impeccable, her posture rigid. She entered the command center flanked by 2 security officers, her cold gaze sweeping the room. "Patricia." She acknowledged Morris with a nod. "I understand you've captured a Cretian officer." Morris stepped forward. "General, this is Private Amy Wells. She found the Cretian in the desert. The defector specifically requested to surrender to our forces, bringing significant intelligence." Simmons turned her attention to Amy, her eyes narrowing. "Private Wells, a defector, you say? How convenient." I stood at attention. "Yes, General. The Cretian officer provided information about an upcoming offensive that intelligence has partially verified." Simmons' expression remained skeptical. "Cretians don't defect, Private. Their loyalty conditioning prevents it. This is likely a trap or a disinformation campaign. Permission to speak freely." General Amy requested. Simmons raised an eyebrow. "Granted, but be brief." This particular Cretian was part of a pre-war cultural exchange program. Amy explained she has familiarity with humans and our values when ordered to massacre civilians. She refused and was targeted for execution by her own commander. Simmons looked to Morris for confirmation. Morris nodded. "We've been unable to verify the exchange program itself, but her knowledge of human customs and language proficiency support the claim." Simmons was silent for a moment. "Take me to the prisoner," she finally said. Kara was now being held in a more secure interrogation room when they entered. She was seated at a metal table, her wrists secured with restraints that seemed almost comically small on her large frame. She looked up calmly as the door opened. General Simmons studied the alien with undisguised contempt. "So you're the defector, Am?" Kara responded, her voice steady through the translator. Simmons circled the table slowly like a predator. "I understand you've provided some information about an upcoming offensive. Convenient that it gives you value to Uskara." Met the general's gaze without flinching. "I have provided tactical information that can be verified. It is in both our interests to prevent unnecessary casualties." Simmons slammed her hand on the table, making Amy jump. "Casualties? You're concerned about casualties after what your people did to New Phoenix? 3 million humans dead in a single attack?" Simmons continued, her voice rising. "And you're here talking about preventing casualties?" Kara remained composed. "I did not participate in the New Phoenix attack, General." I condemned it as dishonorable warfare should be conducted between combatants, not against civilian populations. Simmons leaned in her face inches from Kara's. Do you expect me to believe a Crescian cares about honoree? Cannot speak for all of my kind. Kara replied, only for myself. I defected because I could no longer support actions that violated my own principles. Simmons straightened. Give me one reason why I shouldn't have you dissected for scientific research. Instead of listening to this act, me stepped forward without thinking. General, the intelligence Kara has provided could save thousands of lives. Simmons turned her cold gaze to Amy Private Wells. You seem unusually concerned for an enemy combatant. Perhaps you've forgotten which side you're on. Amy felt a chill run down her spine, but stood her ground respectfully. General, I'm concerned with winning this war with minimal losses. Kara's information gives us an advantage we didn't have before. Morris intervened. I suggest we focus on extracting the intelligence, General, then determine how to proceed. Simmons seemed to consider this. Very well, Commander. 3 days. I want everything this creature knows about Crescian Military Operations Command. Structures, weapons, technology, every detail extracted and verified. She looked at Kara after that. We'll see if you're still useful. She turned to leave Private Wells. Since you've developed such a rapport with the prisoner, you will assist in the interrogation. Document everything, report directly to Mimi. Saluted. Yes, General. Once Simmons had left the room, Morris exhaled. She hasn't changed, still as subtle as a sledgehammer. Kara spoke, her voice quieter than before. Your general has suffered great loss. I understand her anger. Morris looked at the Crescian with new interest. You really aren't like the others are. Kara tilted her head in what Amy now recognized as a gesture of consideration. We are not a monolith, Commander, just as humans are not. All the same, I need to brief my team, Morris said, but she paused at the door. Private Wells, a word. Amy followed her into the hallway. Simmons will push hard. Morris warned. She won't believe anything the Crescian says without verification. Your job is to keep the information flowing. If Kara stops cooperating, we all lose. I understand, Mom. Morris studied her for a moment. Be careful, Wells. I can see you believe in this defector. Don't let that cloud your judgment for the next several hours. Amy sat. With Kara as intelligence officers questioned her about Crescian military structures, command protocols, and weapons capabilities, Kara answered everything in detail, accessing data on her wrist device to provide supporting evidence. By late afternoon, Amy could see Kara was growing tired. Though the alien tried not to show it, the officers finally left to analyze the latest information, leaving Amy alone with Kara. You should rest, Amy said. You've been answering questions for hours. Kara looked at her with those intense amber eyes. Your general does not believe my defection is genuine. Amy sighed. She's lost a lot to this war. Her family was in New Phoenix. Kara was silent for a moment, then spoke softly. The attack on New Phoenix was not a military decision, it was political. A demonstration of power meant to force your government to surrender. Amy felt a chill at the matter-of-fact way. Kara described such devastation. Did you know? It was planned. Kara met her eyes. I learned of it after. Not before. I was stationed at an outpost on your moon at the time. Had I known, I would have. She stopped, leaving the sentence unfinished. You would have what Amy asked. Kara looked away. I do not know what I would have done. Then I was still loyal too. The Empire still believed our cause was just. The attack changed that for many of us. Me was surprised to hear this. Many of you, Kara, nodded. There are others who question the Empire's methods, though few dare to speak openly. Dissent is not tolerated. This was valuable information. Something General Simmons needed to hear. Potential divisions within Crescian ranks could be strategically useful. Their conversation was interrupted by the door opening. A security officer entered Private Wells. General Simmons. Request your presence in the command center. Amy stood. I'll be right back. She told Kara Simmons was reviewing data with a team of analysts when Amy arrived. She looked up Private Wells. Our verification teams have confirmed the Crescian's information. About the offensive, it appears to be accurate. That's good news, General, Amy said. Simmons' expression remained hard. It changes nothing about my assessment of the situation. This could still be an elaborate deception, feeding us true intelligence to establish credibility before the lies begin. Morris, who stood nearby, spoke up. Olivia the defector has provided more actionable intelligence in 24 hours than we've gathered in 3 months. Simmons turned to Morris. I know you're a pragmatist, Patricia, but I've seen what these creatures are capable of. I won't risk human lives on the word of a Crescian. She looked at Amy. I want you to push harder. Wells find inconsistencies. Test her knowledge. Look for the cracks in her story. Every lie has them. Amy, hesitated General, if I may. Kara's been cooperative so far, pushing too hard might. Simmons cut her off. Are you questioning my orders? Private? No, General, Amy replied quickly. Good, return to the prisoner. Continue the questioning, focus on her personal involvement in Crescian operations. I want to know exactly what she's done in this war, Amy. Returned to Kara's room, troubled by Simmons' approach. The general seemed determined to find fault. Regardless of the evidence, Kara looked up as Amy entered. I sense your meeting did not go well. Amy sat across from the alien general. Simmons wants me to focus on your personal involvement in Crescian operations, your combat history. The emergency meeting was called immediately upon Amy's request. The command center, now filled with senior officers, including General Simmons, Commander Morris, and the base's chief medical officer, Dr. Diane Miller Kara, was brought in under heavy guard, her restraints still in place. General Simmons glared at the Crescian. You claim to have information about a biological weapon. Kara nodded. Accessing her wrist device despite the awkwardness of her restraints, a holographic projection appeared, above the table showing molecular structures and deployment plans. It is designated Project Genesis. Kara explained, designed to target specific genetic markers in human DNA, causing catastrophic cellular breakdown. Death would occur within 48 hours of exposure. The weapon is colorless, odorless, and can be dispersed through water systems or as an airborne agent. Dr. Miller stepped forward, studying the projection with growing horror. These protein sequences, she pointed to part of the display, they would specifically bind to human cell receptors, causing what amounts to cellular suicide, while leaving other species unaffected. Is there a treatment? Dr. Simmons asked. Miller shook her head, not without knowing more about the mechanism of action. We'd be starting from scratch while people died by the millions. Simmons turned to Kara. When is the planned deployment? Within 2 weeks, Kara answered. The production facility is located in what you call the Ceres Belt, disguised as a mining operation. The first target would be your water processing centers in the North American region, followed by European and Asian population centers. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just another weapon. It was. Genocide. Commander Morris spoke first. We need to verify this intelligence immediately. Kara looked at her. My device contains the coordinates of the facility security protocols and a complete breakdown of the weapon's composition. Verification is possible through your deep space monitoring stations. Simmons studied Kara intently. Why would you reveal this now? Why not tell us immediately upon your defection? I needed to establish a baseline of trust. Kara explained. I needed to be certain this information would be acted upon, not dismissed as deception. Amy spoke up, Sir Karas. Information has been accurate on everything we've verified. So far, Simmons paced the room. This could still be an elaborate trap. Kara met the general's hostile gaze. You have lost family to my kind, General Simmons. I understand your distrust, but consider this: if my intention was deception, I could have provided false information about conventional military operations, information that would not prevent the deployment of a weapon that would end your species. Dr. Miller looked up from her analysis of the projected data. The molecular science here is sound. General, this isn't something quickly fabricated. It's detailed, comprehensive, and terrifyingly plausible. Simmons stopped pacing. If this is true, it is. Kara said simply. I have violated every oath to my empire by revealing this. My life is forfeit should I ever return. I made this choice because there must be limits, even in war. The complete extinction of your species crosses that line. The general stared at Kara for a long moment. Commander Morris, I need verification of this facility. Immediate deployment of reconnaissance drones to the coordinates. She turned to Miller. Doctor, I want your team working on potential countermeasures immediately. Yes, General, they responded in unison. Simmons looked at Kara one last time. I still don't trust you, but I can ignore this. The restraints stay and security remains in place until we verify your claims. Kara nodded. I expect nothing less. As the meeting dispersed, Amy was ordered to continue working with Kara to extract any additional details about the weapon and its deployment for the next several hours. They worked together, Kara providing everything she knew while Amy documented and relayed the information to the research teams. It was late evening when Amy returned to Kara's room after briefing Dr. Miller's team. The Crescian looked tired, but remained composed. You should rest, Amy said. Kara looked up. They will find the facility soon. Your verification drones are nearly in position. How do you know that? Amy asked, surprised. The wrist device. Kara explained. I can track their approach. Your technology is similar enough to ours. Amy sat across from her. What happens if they confirm everything? What happens to you? Kara was silent for a moment. The logical course of action would be to extract all useful intelligence from me, then terminate a potential security risk. I felt a chill at the matter-of-fact way Kara described her likely execution. No, that's not how we do things. Kara tilted her head. Is it not? You are at war. My knowledge extends beyond this weapon, I know. Crescian military protocols, security systems, command structures, valuable information that could be compromised if I were ever recaptured. I leaned forward. You've risked everything to help us. That counts for something. Kara studied Amy with those intense amber eyes. You continue to surprise me. Amy Wells, your concern seems genuine despite our different species. Before Amy could respond, an alarm blared through the base red lights flashing in the corridor outside. What's happening? Amy stood moving toward the door. Kara accessed her wrist device checking data, her expression growing serious. Crescian strike force approaching your base perimeter. They must have tracked me somehow. Security officers burst into the room. Private Wells General Simmons orders all personnel to battle stations were under attack. Ame looked at Kara. What about the prisoner? Secure her here, the officer said. Lockdown protocols are in effect. No one in or out as the officer left. Amy hesitated, torn between duty and concern for Kara's safety. Go, Kara said. Your people need you. Amy nodded. Reluctantly, stay safe. I'll be back when I can. She rushed to the armory, collecting her combat gear and joining her unit at the south perimeter wall. The night sky was lit up with weapons fire as Crescian dropships descended around the base. Lieutenant Benson shouted orders over the chaos. Wells, take position at Sector 4. They need support. Fire. Amy ran to her assigned position, taking cover behind a defensive barrier. She could see Crescian warriors advancing, their distinctive armor glinting. In the flashes of weapons fire, they moved with coordinated precision, focusing their attack on the base's power generators. This isn't a random attack. Amy realized it's targeted. The battle raged for hours, the human defenders holding their ground. But the Crescian forces kept coming, wave after wave. Amy fought alongside her unit, her training taking over as she fired at the advancing enemy. A massive explosion rocked the eastern section of the base, the command center. Amy thought with horror. In the confusion that followed, Amy made a decision. She needed to check on Kara. If the Crescians were here for their defector, she couldn't let them succeed. She made her way through the chaotic base, avoiding falling debris and the occasional enemy soldier who had breached the perimeter. As she neared the detention section, she heard weapons fire ahead, rounding a corner. Amy found 2 human guards down and 3 Crescian warriors trying to breach the secure room where Kara was held. She took cover and opened fire, hitting one of the warriors in the shoulder. The other 2 turned, firing back, forcing Amy to duck behind a fallen beam. She heard one of them speaking in their native language, the translator only catching fragments. Locate traitor. Extraction priority. They were definitely here for Kara. Amy realized she needed to stop them, but was outnumbered. Suddenly, the door to Kara's room slid open, and the Crescian defector stepped out. Despite still wearing restraints, she moved with surprising speed, grabbing one of the attacking warriors and using him as a shield against the other's fire. Amy seized the opportunity, firing at the distracted Crescians. One went down, the other retreating around the corner. Kara. They came for you, Amy said, moving to her side. Not just for me, Kara replied. For this. She held up her wrist device. They want to ensure I cannot reveal the weapon's location. They need to get you out of here. Amy said, checking the fallen guards, finding one still alive but unconscious. Kara looked at her with intensity. I need access to your communication systems. I can send a signal to disrupt their attack pattern. Amy hesitated. That would mean removing Kara's restraints and giving her access to sensitive equipment. Trust works in both directions, Amy Wells, Kara said softly. I have trusted you with my life. Amy made her decision, unlocking Kara's restraints. Follow me. They made their way to a secondary communication hub, avoiding the main battle areas. Amy secured the door behind them, as Kara immediately began working at the terminal, her long fingers moving across the interface with practiced precision. What are you doing? Amy asked. Keeping watch at the door, sending a specific frequency that will disrupt their tactical network. Kara explained it is a security protocol unknown to most Cratian commanders. Only those of us in intelligence have this knowledge. The terminal screen flickered as Kara worked. Suddenly, the pattern of weapons fire outside changed, becoming more erratic, less coordinated. It is working. Kara said they are losing tactical cohesion, and we looked at the monitor showing the battle outside. The Cratian forces were indeed falling into disarray, their coordinated attack breaking down into individual skirmishes. We need to get this information to General Simmons. Amy said they could push back the attack before they could leave the communication hub. The door burst open. A Cratian commander stood there. Weapon raised, his armor more elaborate than the others. Betrayer. The commander hissed at Kara, you will not survive this night.